This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. All right, you were, good morning, sir, first of all.
Good morning.
You were listening there on deck. Things are going to change now.
Yeah.
And defensive scheme is going to change. And I think we got to, prepare the Dolphin Nation that names are going to change.
Yeah, a new style of defense. Like the difference between Flores and Boyer is smaller than it is with Boyer to Fangio. And so, yeah, there's going to be styles of players, scheme styles, preferences of players that completely change with the new scheme. You know, your core players will stay the same. You'll still have your Jalen Phillips, your Bradley Chubb,
your front line,
your Christian Wilkins, but maybe some of the other guys that were maybe
linebackers,
players,
maybe one of the safeties, corners,
different things like that. Those are elements that could potentially change with this offense. I think I mentioned it to you before, but like in a Fangio offense, the most important positions, particular to compared to other defenses, are the safety position and the nose tackle position, which a lot of times you look at defenses, like particularly when you talk about the Flores / Boyer defenses, they love cornerbacks. You gave that top money to Xavier Howard and Byron Jones because it was a man-heavy concept. You enjoyed guys who could play man coverage at your corner and safety positions, and then guys who could blitz. This defense is going to be heavy zone, a lot of cover 3 defenses. So you're going to need your 2 safeties. They play a lot of deep safeties, too deep. And so those guys are going to be super important. And then they try to control the run game by having a big nose tackle who can control that element and then have their linebackers fill. Not saying the rest of the positions aren't important, but that's where they're going to start. You already had that guy in Javon Holland, who's the second guy, which is why I mentioned to you before. I know it may catch a couple people's eyes, but it would not surprise me. Not at Fangio, is going to be the guy if they go out and try to get another safety. If they go out and sign or draft another safety and have him be that other guy next to Javon Holland and maybe Brandon Jones in a third safety role. They're going to have an interesting question of how they feel about Raekwon Davis. Raekwon Davis.
That was my question.
Exactly.
Can Fangio fix Raekwon Davis? And let's be honest now, he needs to be fixed.
Right.
He has not lived up to his draft status. He's way too freaking inconsistent. Does not make enough plays. He is overshadowed by Sealer, by Wilkins, by Phillips, by everyone else that's on the D line with him. He does not carry his weight. And what you just mentioned, nose tackle is really important.
Yep.
Well, I would not even tag him. I would let him play out the 4th year and earn it because unfortunately he has not earned the risk of guaranteeing money the next year. And I would hope that Fangio fixes him because somebody's got to light a fire under his ass because he's got a ton of talent.
Yeah, he's big, right? And that was what intrigued a lot of people. But he's 6'7", 330, but it doesn't always play that way. And it's tough because a nose tackle, a lot of times your job doesn't show up in the stat sheet. But still, you can show an impact based on how you affect the game. And I think inconsistent is the right word because we've seen splashes of Raekwon Davis, but it hasn't consistently been that type of player. And if you remember,
he's a poor man's Daryl Gardner. And Daryl Gardner did not have his motor on all the time. But when Daryl Gardner had his motor on, holy shit, you knew exactly when his motor was on.
Right.
Raekwon Davis doesn't have his motor on a third of the time that Daryl Gardner had his on half the time.
Right.
So that's where I would label him a poor man's Daryl Gardner. Daryl also did not bring it in every down. But when he brought it, holy moly. I mean, it was caving the line. It was disrupting everything because he had that ability. I haven't even seen Daryl Gardner effort, and that wasn't good enough on a consistent basis to keep him long term. It was just a short window that he did it in, and then they got rid of him after that. To me, that's what he's got to cross.
Excuse me. And it's tough because Raekwon's going into his 4th season. I think you mentioned it earlier, but like this he's not a first round pick. So this is the last year of his deal, of a 4-year
Right.
deal. But that being said, you got to start thinking, is he a part of our future? You can clearly say, guys like Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, because of how they paid him, and Christian Wilkins are part of their future. Raekwon, there's a big question there. And so I think that you're going to see a situation where they're going to bring in some competition for him, whether it be a draft pick or whether most likely it's a veteran, and say, hey, you're going to have to compete for this spot. This is not a given job. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Because you got to remember, this is a Brian Flores. Chris Greer was a part of this, but Brian Flores was really pushing for this Raekwon Davis pick. It's a guy he loved. And he actually looked pretty good his rookie year. But since then, he has not seen a big step. And so those are the two positions I would start the offseason for. Are they going to upgrade that nose tackle position? What do they do with the second safeties position? And then everything else, to me, will fill in once those two things are figured out. And yeah, like you said at the top, don't expect this team to be heavy man, heavy blitz. I think it'll, they'll still blitz some. Fangio's defense blitz some, but not nearly as much as the Dolphins did. And they'll play a lot more zone coverage.
Somebody tell Mark Ross that, by the way. He thinks it's an aggressive style defense. It's an attacking defense. Somebody tell him that. Anyway, so how active do you expect them to be within their roster? We know Byron Jones's history done probably in June, right? Is that what you think? The June cut is more realistic?
It'll be interesting because you can cut a guy and designate him as a June 1 cut if you wanted to do that. Like if you want to say, hey, this guy's going to be a June 1 cut, you can designate him there and get him off the books early if you want to do him a favor so he could test the market. I'm not sure how they feel about that. But I do anticipate, I don't think he has any any trade value at all. So I do anticipate that, they move on from him, they trade him. Unless he's willing to take a huge, huge pay cut, which I don't anticipate him doing. I think that they
he didn't take this year off to take a pay cut, bro.
Yeah.
He took this year off to be healthy and try to work out for somebody and try to get the max money. Although I still think this whole year holding out and in the late surgery and all that is going to be a bad look wherever he goes. That's not. I don't think he'll get the money that he's thinking he's going to get only because of that. And you've been out for a year, so people will be a little concerned about that. Where else do you expect them to make changes?
Real briefly on Byron Jones, what was interesting to me, and we could talk about Brian Flores if you want at the end getting the Vikings job, but when I looked at that roster, they were 30th or worse in pass defense, total defense, and scoring defense. One of the big deficiencies on their defense is cornerback. And so I started to pick their pieces. Don't be surprised if Flores starts going after some people he had here. And so Byron Jones may be a guy at a
Hunter Long?
Hunter Long? If Hunter Long's released. But I'm just thinking, like I know we're making fun of the situation, but I'm serious. Like
Noah Monogamy?
If he comes back on like a low 1-year deal, low money, then I can see him going after that. Nick Needham, there may be some competition there because
will he trade for Jordan Love?
But my point is that now you have another coach who knows this roster well. You're going to see him competing for some of these players who are quote unquote free agents. The Dolphins won't care about Byron Jones, but maybe Nick Needham.
He's more than welcome to take all the bad draft picks and selections he made here. No problem. Yeah. Thank the Lord they stopped him from taking Jordan Love, at least. Holy moly! Wow.
But on the other spectrum, I don't think they'll be as active as they were last year. Like last year was dollar bill, y'all, between Teron Armstead and Tyreek Hill and Connor Williams. I do think that, like you said, they're going to have to fill a lot of depth roles and competing for starting roles as far as linebacker, as far as cornerback depth, and then on offense, particularly the offensive line and the running back rooms. Those are the areas, and then backup quarterback, obviously. But those are probably the 5 areas I think they circle, but I don't expect them to make any big top of the market free agent splashes. Like I don't expect there to be a Teron Armstead or a Tyreek Hill to be in this class. Maybe more 6 or 7 medium to small signings and hope that it works with a new draft class.
Well, the Brian Flores thing I find very interesting. And I don't know if you're going to go or follow me down the tunnel that I'm going to go. But because I kind of look at things always in different ways and different angles to all of this. And one, I got to say I'm wrong because I didn't think he'd get a defensive coordinator. Forget head coach. And I didn't think he was going to get hired in Arizona only because they invested so much in the little guy that I think Kafka's the guy because they've got to save that stupid contract they gave that kid. And so now the only way, you can't get a defensive guy. And hiring Brian Flores would make no sense because he couldn't build an offensive staff. So how do you fix the $200 million mistake? So I think Kafka was going to get in. He probably knew. So we'll see. They haven't named who it is between the two guys yet. But I still didn't expect him to get a defensive coordinator job, and he did. And in the end, let me tell you the twisted part of all of this. I believe the NFL has behaved better than he has. I believe he has pointed empty fingers and empty accusations all over the place. Nobody has denied him because of color, especially in Miami. Not to say that it doesn't happen in the NFL. We know it happens in the NFL. But in his case, I don't think it has anything to do with color. He's been kind of a bitter dude, since this whole thing. And that's kind of who he was in the building while he was here, constantly fighting with people inside the building. Yet the NFL is being sued, by this guy and teams. And yet they have one team stepped up in Pittsburgh, who, of course, has led the way for the Rooney Rule and equality and all of that. So God bless them for that. But in the process, the rest of the NFL has opened their doors, has gladly interviewed him, on his skills, hoping that he can tweak the other shit that, kind of brought him down. And now he's got a defensive coordinator position. So the league that's getting sued didn't end up blackballing him. They ended up actually embracing him still and appreciating his coaching skills and trying to overcome the other stuff. So I actually commend the NFL because they have enough power. You and I know this. They have enough power to sweep him away, and nobody will ever do anything and nothing because this league is Teflon. They are Teflon to everything and anything. And Brian Flores was a gnat on their windshield that they could have swiped off, and they haven't. Kudos to the NFL. They've acted pretty damn good in this entire situation. I don't know anybody that hires you when you're suing them. So I never expected this.
I'm not completely going to follow you down that road, but I hear your
point. Not. I know what you work for. So
but I will say this. I do think that Brian Flores was bigger than a gnat on their perspective. I will say that the Brian Flores issue, and it's still ongoing, the legal case is still ongoing, was more.
You don't really want to go down this road with me, brother.
Give credit to. But I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that.
For decades. And look,
I'm going to leave it at that. I will say here, like we know that, what happened in Miami, some of the issues that Flores had here, right? The thing I like about this move for Minnesota, one, he's not going to have to worry about hiring an offensive staff as defense coordinator there. He just gets to focus on his side of the ball. And as we saw here, when he's focused on his side of the ball and all it is coaching the defense and getting them better and that side of the ball, he can be really good coaching that group up. And I think that he will be good in Minnesota. Now, when he has to go about getting a head coach job, some of the same questions that you are asking are going to be brought up again. How can you lead a building, given what happened in Miami? How can you fix the offensive side of the ball? Who are you going to hire? How do you relate with the quarterback? Those are questions that are going to come up.
Will you screw it up like Josh McDaniels again?
So, yes, these are questions that are going to come up, right? And I think that, but right now, as defensive coordinator, I think that he's going to be great for them. Like that's a defense that was horrific last year. And they were probably the defenses what held them back from being, competing in an NFC Championship, competing in the Super Bowl. And I'm just looking at what he can do there. I think that they're going to be special really quick. And then I think next year we'll be having these conversations. I do think that he'll be back up for a head coach job next year if it all goes well. And then you can bring up these questions again, and we'll see if another team takes a chance.
I hope he learns from his thing, and then I hope he learns from watching Josh McDaniel now. In his second go around, because obviously it's proving to be a terrible hire once again. with that guy. He doesn't look like he's a head coach, overall. I look at our guy here, and I don't care what anybody tells me, dude. I'm locked on this. If it wasn't for the freaking injuries, they would have had a much better season. They would have won more games. You know what I mean? And they weren't the team like the Raiders losing double-digit leads in the fourth quarter over and over and over again. No, I saw a team that had great effort from beginning to end. I saw a team that was so injury depleted, they still could have beat the Bills in the damn playoffs. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest feeling I have about the Dolphins this year. I've never had this kind of feeling. Like they got through a season of hell, and I'm actually pretty impressed with their fight all the way to the end. Do they have holes in their game? Yeah, McDaniel's got to, fix his shit on game day, make better decisions. Do they need some luck on the injury side? Hell yeah. Do they need some talent, maybe at linebacker and a couple of other plays? Yeah, I get it. There's some holes. But, dude, what they did this year and trying to overcome all that stinking adversity, I got to tell you, man, I know that the losing streak kind of blinds people, but if you really look at the overall effort and the way they ended, to have that effort at the end after that losing streak, I think it shows a lot of your coaching staff and your players. That's just me.
Yeah, I do think that there was more good than bad that came out of this season. Obviously, every season there's 31 teams who are going to be disappointed who don't win the Super Bowl.
Of course.
But from where this team was making the playoffs, something they hadn't done in 5 or 6 years, seeing that their quarterback Tua, when healthy, can be the franchise guy they were hoping to be, those were huge pluses for this team. And yeah, good steps for them to go forward. And I do think that Vic Fangio and the new defense will give them a little bit more cachet going into 2023. So if you're a Dolphins fan, I think there's reason for optimism. But the hard part of this step, and Dolphins fans are probably happy to have it, is that for 20 years, they've been trying to figure out how to get out of mediocrity, right? Now you're starting to get out of mediocrity and you're in the good stage. The hardest thing to do in football is to go from good to great, right? And so I think Dolphins fans would rather have the issue of how do we get from making the playoffs to winning playoff games and making it to the final stages. That's the stage they're in now. I think we passed are they going to make the playoff stage ideally. To me, if they took a step back and missed the playoffs, that's regression and you got to figure it out. But where they are now, it's what can we do to get over the top? Maybe it's getting a little luck on health, but like we talked about, hope is not an option. So you can't just hope we're going to be healthy, and that's going to be the big difference. So I'm eager to see what changes they do make, which players make that next step, and see how they run it back.
I had a healthy debate with Perkins over at the Senior Bowl, and he's dead set that the roster is not good enough, this and that. And I'm more that it was about injuries. And this post is very interesting. This is the approximate value and draft capital invested by teams. And what it is the ROI, return on investment, for every pick over the past 4 drafts. And you look at each team for reference. The first overall pick is worth $3,000 on the Fitzgerald Spielberg chart, and the 63rd pick is worth $900. And look where the Dolphins are at. Okay, they're one of the highest. And look at the Jets. Jets also had injuries. And you look at their roster. Outside of the quarterback, you have to agree. I know it's blasphemous in South Florida or in Dolphin land to say it, but they're up and coming. Hey, I thought the Jags made the playoffs. Oh yeah, and a great comeback against Mr. Joker. The Lions, I guess their drafts as of late, people have been talking about it, right? Well, look, Dan the Man Campbell. There are the Dolphins. I can't explain the Raiders. There you go. The Giants, they made it back to the playoffs. And I guess Falcons and Texans, I guess they must have traded some of their players. But look at the Bengals. The Niners are here. So, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And we know the Rams have traded all their draft capital. That's why they're there. And look at the Bears. Apparently, they haven't done too well. So you look at it, ROI, it might be something that, people pick on the front office, but I think if you really look at their picks, and I tried to explain it to Perk, that if you look at their last 9 first-rounders, they've hit on 6 of them. If you look at their second-rounders, I believe they're either 4-1 or 4-2 or something like that in their second-rounders. I mean, it's just they're actually hitting on picks. I just believe this year, if things actually worked out where you stayed healthy, I think we would have had a different team.
I think they're a lot closer. I think the way I look at it is, anything can happen in the playoffs, but where are you in comparison to the top teams in your division? Are you leading your division? Are you competing with the top teams in the AFC? And to me, there was a huge gap in 2021 between the Bills and the Dolphins. And now that gap is very, very small. There's a few plays. And to me, you got to get over the Bills, and then you can start looking at, to me, the two best teams in the AFC consistently over the last few years, the Chiefs and the Bengals. And that's that next tier. And right now, the Bills are the only thing in the way. And so it's completely reasonable for me to see them jumping the Bills. Now, are they ready to do the Chiefs and the Bengals in one off season? I don't know.
No. Slow down. Slow down.
But they're certainly in position with a great off season, making the right additions, the right improvements, that we could be looking at the Dolphins hosting a playoff game.
And you saw the Bills, how low they are. Apparently, they're not hitting on picks as of late. Right? They haven't been hitting on them as much. And guess what I'm looking at now? Yeah, baby. You got to now. His salary kicks in, Josh Allen. Yep. So all of a sudden now, the Bills have to start making really difficult decisions. Mm-hmm. Their window might be actually closing a little bit more because their team is going to have to take a step back. They're not going to be able to pay everybody on the West Coast.
Right.
The Goldilocks for the Chargers. Well, guess what? They got to give them a new deal. And they're owned by Mr. Spanos. And they're already talking about Keenan Allen not coming back and the tight end not coming back and all that. So now all of a sudden, reality starts to step in. Okay, the Bengals. Hey, Mike Brown, you spent some money, but now we hear you want to trade T. Higgins. Well, that's going to change the complexion of your team if you want to trade T. Higgins. So all of these things start to change, and that's where Miami will have a chance to kind of close that gap because these other teams have been playing with house money because their quarterback salary has not kicked in. Now that the quarterback salary or receiver salary or whatever it is that you got to pay kicks in, now you're going to have to make some financial decisions. And that's where it kind of gets hairy because Dean Spanos is not going to be willing to have the amount of money in escrow that Stephen Ross will put in escrow. So It's just one of those things that I think that financial part that I don't think people think about so much. I'm thinking about it. Again, I try to look at all types of angles to all of this. I think that plays in the favor of Miami too.
Yeah, the biggest advantage in the NFL is to have a quarterback on a rookie contract. I don't know if it's said enough, but that's what it is. You look at situation now with Philadelphia. Philadelphia is able to spend a lot of money on the trenches, on different positions, and they are the best roster in football because their quarterback's on a rookie contract. So it's either have a Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in football by far, and you go a little cheaper on other areas. You don't keep a Tyreek Hill. You aren't able to keep certain players, and you make it work, and you're still really good, or you take advantage of this rookie contract slot. That's usually the main two roles. That's how the Bengals made their run this past year. They took advantage of that.
By the way, let me add something to your point.
Yep.
In a twisted way, the concussions just bought you another year for your window because you're not giving him an extension. You definitely are going to tag him. There's no doubt in my mind the fifth-year option is coming. And at $22 million, by the way, didn't the cap go up $16 million? So next year, it'll go up another $16 million probably. So the $22 million is not going to hurt you anymore. So really, it's the sixth year. So now you have bought yourself 2 more years of trying to get this thing over the hump before the big money kicks in. If Tua proves he can stay healthy, of course, in these next 2 years, that you can give him that deal. You know what I'm saying? So technically, the concussions just bought you another year because you and I know if there are no concussions this year, he didn't have injuries.
Right.
It was all about concussions. And so this year there were no ribs, no hip, no ankles, no nothing. You know, everybody conveniently leaves that out. And so let's say he goes this year without any concussions and he kicks ass and plays more games and they go deep into the playoffs. What happens, Cam? You and I, we're all talking about a $300 million deal right now in the offseason for Tua, which then limits you 1 year in the window to try to fix this and take advantage of what they've been doing in Buffalo. So if you want a small positive out of the concussions, it bought you a year. Agree or disagree?
I don't know if I take any positives out of concussions, but I will say I do hear your standpoint. Like I said, the best value in the NFL is a quarterback on a rookie contract, and so you extend that however long as possible. That increases your window. Once the quarterback does get paid, you have to adjust your rosters, and so you can't make as big of a swings for the Tyreek Hills or the Teron Armsteads. And so they're using this window, 2-3 window gap where they can pay big money to Tyreek, pay big money to Teron, while Tua's contract is still low before you pay that. So yeah, next year he's going to be on a low number for the last year of his rookie deal. They give him the 5th-year option. Like I anticipate, like you've noted, even that number is probably $25 million.
22 and a half.
And then from there, you decide extensions. So maybe there's a 2-year gap right here coming up where you still have Tua on low number rookie contracts or low salary. Because even if you do an extension after next year, that first year number is going to be low. And so you're looking at whether it's the 5th-year option or the new first year of a contract extension. You probably got 2 years of low number for your quarterback coming up.
That is a great point you just added to that. That is fantastic, bro. All right, what do you got going on the NFL Network? Because you're obviously too tired to be on the air. Yawning and stuff and all that. We woke you up for this segment there in the off season.
Yeah, I've been laying around with my baby girl in the bed. I'm not gonna lie. I've been in Vegas for 8 straight days, and so my body needed a day where I wasn't up at 7 a.m. for work and wasn't out till about 1 a.m. At least for nightlife. So I'm catching up on all of it today and really the next couple of days for sure. So
all right. Good stuff. Follow him on Twitter at Cameron Wolfe and catch his work there at the NFL Network. Cam, as always, appreciate you, my man.
Absolutely. Appreciate you. Have a good one.
You got it. There you go. KSDT CPAs. They know how to get it done. We've been telling you about them now for over a year. Great people. You want to take your business to the next level. Okay. Of course, they'll do your personal taxes. You know, whatever it is that you need to handle. But if you need some help in management, they can help you. Healthcare advisory, property management, wealth management, they do it all, folks. Estate and gift tax, family business tax planning, retirement planning, state and local tax consulting. They can help you. Crypto, they've got a crypto department. So if you're a crypto person like I am, not all these accounting firms really understand crypto. They've got a specific department dedicated to crypto there. They've got offices in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. So it's a South Florida company, but they are expanding. All right. They're a top 200 accounting firm by Forbes in this country, and they're moving also to North Carolina. We'll tell you when they open and where they open the office in North Carolina, but all kinds of assurance taxes that they can help you with, accounting services there from bookkeeping to bank statements, cash flow analysis, all of those things. They can help you make sure you're maximizing your business. And if you're looking to sell it, they can also help you do that too, so you can find out the value of your business. So please call them, Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach counties, 305-670-3370. KSDT CPAs, man. One of America's finest accounting firms, one of America's best tax firms, and that is by Forbes 2023, baby. 305-670-3370. Tell them that Big O sent you. Support the amazing companies that support this platform every single day, bringing you the sports talk that you deserve.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.